What's up, Heat Nation? Welcome back to another Miami Heat post-game show, and also welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast. My name is Amir. Got a special episode for you guys today. I have two guests joining me. Unfortunately, they're Warrior fans. They are also podcasters. Well, Scott not anymore, but Bram is the host of the Warriors Huddle podcast. So excited to have you on. How are you doing today, guys?
I'm doing great, Amir. Appreciate the opportunity to come on. And you know what, man? I'm just going to get this distraction out of the way up front so I don't think about it the whole time. We also use on my podcast StreamYard, but we don't pay for like the high video, like the fidelity that we have here. If I had known that we were going to have like this quality of video, I would have like combed my hair and stuff, man. So I'm a little distracted. Fortunately, I'm also fired up that the Warriors actually showed a little bit of competency last night, so I'm good, and appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. I don't think any of us have good hair right now, so I actually combed my hair for this episode too. So, Scott, you want to introduce yourself real quick to the audience?
Yeah, no, really happy to be on. Thanks for having me, and it's really nice to be able to talk basketball again. A longtime producer of the Warriors Huddle with Bram, who has carried it on in my absence and done a great job with it. So nice to be talking basketball again with Bram and you.
Yeah, I feel like the show's improved a lot over the years since you've left. So
It
I don't know if
definitely
I don't know if
has.
it's correlation or causation. We'll see. But excited for you guys to be here. Not excited about the outcome yesterday. So yesterday, the Heat lost 113-92 at home against the Warriors, and it was a crucial game for both of us. I mean, I think it was more crucial for the Warriors. Again, I haven't been following the Warriors as closely as I normally have because I do live in San Francisco, and 90% of my friends are Warrior fans. But I'm just surprised at the record. Like, I'm more surprised at the home record for the Warriors because the Heat are similar to the Warriors this season, where we both have better records on the road. And once the news that Jimmy Butler was going to miss the game, along with half our other players, I just knew we were going to lose. We were -4. The Heat are 0-9 this year at home when they're predicted to lose against the spread. So, and I knew the Warriors were a good, road team. And again, they are fighting for the 9th and 10th spot. It looks like you guys are 3.5, 4 games from the 8th seed. So it doesn't look like in the 10 or 11 games that you guys have left are going to be able to do that. It's not impossible, but it just seems improbable to catch up to the Suns at this point. And the Heat are 39-33. We're 7th right now, and it's just been a frustrating year for us with just injuries. I don't want to use that as the only excuse, but last night Jimmy Butler, apparently, I don't know if he was hungover or had a head cold, but he was partying at the Miami Open with Neymar Monday night, and then of course he misses this game, which kind of reminds me of James Harden to a certain degree. But I'm not going to ever compare him to James Harden, not taking, the NBA season serious. But anyway, I'm rambling. I'm pissed off. This was a game that we needed to win as well, but we lost at home. Let's start off with you, Scott. What are your thoughts on the game overall last night?
I mean, it is interesting how similar these two teams are, and like kind of the seasons have been, particularly the home losing stuff is just so frustrating when, that's what we count on is those home wins, and then it's unexplainable what's going on, really. I mean, I think Heat have a much better explanation with, I know you don't want to blame it on the injuries, but I mean, that was a pretty lackluster Heat squad. Now, I will say the Warriors love to lose to those type of like teams that don't have their star players. So that was nice to see that the Warriors didn't kind of go down to the level of their competition and got it done. But yeah, I mean, I was very satisfied with the win from a Warriors perspective. I don't know, Bram, where do you stand on that?
It feels like it's going to be a therapy session, boys. And I'm happy to see it. Look, this is the definition of grass is greener. Amir, I'll give you a different perspective. When I heard that all those people were sitting, I fucking was for sure the Warriors were going to lose it. We have been doing that every single opportunity. If a game was a must win, if the roster seemingly was worse than ours, then the Warriors would build a halftime lead and then piss it away in the fourth quarter. I was ready for that exact experience last night, which is why I'm a little buoyed today. But this season has been an exercise in inconsistency for the Warriors. All right. You saw even a little piece of it last night. after spending the better part of, I think, about 3 weeks now, making sure that Klay Thompson understood his new role, that he should be coming off the bench. He finally stabilized his 3-point percentage. It jumps up because he's a reserve. We started him last night out of nowhere. Just started him, because Kerr said that we needed a little bit of spacing and that it might not be a permanent switch. So, am I happy with the way this season has been going? Hell no, man. We are 2 years removed from being champions. And now the conversational topic is how much time we have left to enjoy Steph here in the Bay and who Klay can be going forward. So I'll take the win. I'll take the win. We'll always take the win. But do I feel like, super excited because we have a shot at maintaining a half-game lead over Houston for the last game in the play-in? No, man, I'm not. There's no celebrations going on over here right now.
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned, Scott, that this team is so similar, like Coach Spo and Steve Kerr, top coaches, similar kind of philosophy with the small ball lineups, which could be, frustrating for us. I looked at your guys' rebounding rate. You guys are number one rebounding team in the NBA. We're like 27. So I was kind of upset that we didn't upgrade with size. Like Bam Adebayo is not a center. He's a power forward. He's 6'9". He's our tallest player. And so rebounding is an issue. I think you guys won the rebounding battle yesterday, but again, I don't want to dive into this game specifically. Like literally, we didn't have our best player in Jimmy Butler. We didn't have our best scorer in Hero. We didn't have our best backup big in Kevin Love, and we didn't have our best shooter in Duncan Robinson. So, but I had small faith that this team also, for some reason, that was a little bit too much having that many folks out all around, but when we have less players, the other players are like, oh, I get an opportunity to play tonight, and they typically do step up. But we've also been similar to the sense with the Warriors. We're playing against the Memphis Grizzlies when the Heat went on the 7-game losing streak back in, I think, January, February, and Desmond Bane is out, Morant is out, Clark is out, and we lose that game. There's games where we also have been healthy at times. So I'm not going to blame it 100% on injuries, because even though Bam, I just saw this stat, Bam, Jimmy and Tyler have played 31 games together this season. So let that sink in. There's been 72 games. But there's games inexplicably with them, we still suck. We still lose to teams. My friend texted me literally, Jimmy's out now. Great. Freaking Warriors are going to definitely lose tonight. So you got the reverse jinx worked apparently. But it's so funny that that's the sentiment of all Warrior fans. That's crazy.
I just think the league has gotten so much better. You look at a lot of teams this year, and I would put the Lakers among them too, where people look at the roster, even their play, and then really can't understand how their record is as poor as it is. And the only thing that I can really chalk it up to is just there's better basketball being played amongst all the other teams, because I've seen it time and time again where, maybe you have an undermanned Grizzlies team, but, GG Jackson or whatever goes off for 37 points. And you're just like, what? How is that even possible? But it happens so consistently that I'm just trying to understand that this is the new norm.
Josh Okogie, Miles McBride. The no-name all-star tour that has come through Chase Center and the Warriors this season has been unbelievable, man. But Amir, I got a question for you because I think it's an interesting look and also probably illustrates the difference between the team and the season that we're both having here. What would you consider to be a successful season? What has to happen going forward here where during the offseason you would think, okay, I am happy with the way this Heat season played out?
That's a tough question.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's a good question because honestly, there's so many delusional Heat fans, and they leverage what we did last year to explain that the Heat can, flip the switch, kind of like Shaq and Kobe would say, or more so Shaq back in those that 99, 2001 three-peat. And he wouldn't be in shape all season, then he would finally, pick it up in the playoffs. And I don't know if we can do that. So if we can make a deep run, I guess if we can get past the second round, realistically, if we can get past the first round, I don't know where we're going to fall. We're only a game and a half from the 6th seeds. All these losses, losing to the Pelicans by 30 when they don't have Brandon Ingram, and we hold Zion to 4 points. And you lose that game by 23 at home. That's every game is so meaningful, and we're still close to getting out of the play-in. But if we're a play-in team, it's going to be a hard path. So getting past a Bucks or getting past a Knicks in the first round or even the Cavs could be success to me, but it's not enough, obviously, because I have so much faith in this team. With Jimmy Butler, I didn't believe he could be a 1A, and I didn't really even believe Bam could be that 2 on a championship team. But we've been, again, the injury excuse. Like, we didn't have Tyler Hero. Like, Jimmy hurt his ankle last year as well. Like, years before that, Tyler Hero, groin injury. Kyle Lowry missed games. Like, we've always, Bam Adebayo against the Lakers in the finals, him and Dragic missed games. So, like, that's just the luck of the draw. We've never been healthy. But I feel like with this build, we've been good enough. It's just the reality is the injuries, and I hate using that goddamn excuse. So success to me would be somehow going into the playoffs fully healthy and just getting in the tournament like Jimmy says, even though I think that's bullshit. He doesn't care what seed we are. I think that seeding is very important in the NBA playoffs. So I guess success for me, the first step would be just getting Tyler Hero back, getting Kevin Love back, getting Duncan and Jimmy, just going in fully healthy and winning a round or two. I don't know. I just honestly, I'm in the camp where I think that this is year 5 of the Jimmy Bam and Hero build, and it's not working. So things need to change. And truthfully, when we didn't get Dame this offseason, that was like the telltale sign that, like this season wasn't going to be successful, because we need that third scorer, and that Tyler Hero role has not been consistent because the best of ability is availability, and we haven't had that. So I don't know. Let me ask you guys this question: What's going to be, so outside of what Scott was saying, the Warriors are not as good this year, perhaps because other teams are getting better. You mentioned the McBrides and those guys, like those games. We call that the Miami Heat scrub killers. We have a bunch of guys who do that to us as well. So outside of games where like you have a scrub beating you guys, like what's been your Achilles? Like, because I don't, from afar, like I'm looking at Steph. He's played 65 games. Clay, 68. Draymond, 46. That's his own fault with suspensions. But I mean, that's obviously important. But what are some of the Achilles heels, I guess, just and why you guys are in this position right now?
Go ahead, Scotty. After you.
No, I'm gonna leave it. I mean, you've been following the team even more closely than I have, so.
Yeah, sure. Let's see, man. We have had a precipitous drop off from a couple of guys that we were not expecting. And let me start this back a little bit further. In fact, Amir, so instead of making fun of my video connection, I should have given you an actual intro. Yeah, I'm been a Warriors fan for longer than I care to admit, longer than I want to admit how old I am. It's been more than 3 fucking decades. We've been doing the podcast for longer than 15 years. I have been following this team for way too long. So my perspective is a little bit different than maybe current Warrior fans are. What I can tell you what happened, these problems started in the miraculous 2022 win, and when they won that title. Because when nobody saw it coming, and the second it happened, it kind of underlined the idea that the Warriors could have 2 title windows at the same time, that they could continue the youth movement with Kuminga and Moody and all these guys we thought were on the way up while still fanning the flames of the current dynasty. And, it was like, thank God for that title. I was on board for it. But 2 years later, we've had this big drop. Clay, the reality of his injuries have just hit him. It is what it is. Loon is completely out of the rotation. Wiggins, who is our secret star during that 22 run, two-way Wiggs, we call them over here, and was, I thought, the second best player in those finals, has completely disappeared. And when that happened, the young guys we were hoping to be able to pick up the rope, Kuminga and Moody, hadn't been given all the playing time they needed to be able to take the baton and run with it this year. And so we have this giant hole of inconsistency, and we don't have a second scorer. Last night, Amir, you saw Clay do it for us. And, he fixed some holes. That hasn't been true all year. We have no idea. If I had to bet my life on a night-to-night basis who is going to be the second leading scorer behind Steph, I'd have no idea where to do it. And so that's a problem, man. And then that's why comparing the two teams, I think in the heart of hearts, Heat fans still think they've got a shot at winning a title. And I think you guys are right. You just wrote a play-in berth to a finals thing, and everyone was terrified of you. I think in our heart of hearts, you ask Warrior fans, I don't think we're thinking title anymore this year. We got that puncher's chance. We're Rocky now, not Drago. but nobody is really thinking that we're a title team. And like there's a giant difference in those, in those two expectations and where we think we're going. So there's still ways we can have success in this season. There's still a lot of fun storylines, but yeah, it's been hard. It's been a difficult thing.
Sounds like your Warrior fans have more mental stability than Miami Heat fans. I feel like we're a little delusional, and I understand that feeling. Like I have a feeling like, again, if we're healthy, sure, we can compete with the Bucks and the Celtics. Like, but the Celtics retooled. They added Porzingis. They added like Holiday. Like that's huge. They don't have the depth that we have, and I think that's one of our strengths. The fact that like Jimmy Butler's missed 22 games and Hero's missed 37 and Bam 12. Like, and the fact that we're still an 8th seed. Like, I know the East is not as competitive as the West. We're a little more less top heavy because Embiid's out, right? Let's be real. The Sixers should be a 3 seed if he hasn't missed 30 games or so. But yeah, it's just been rough. It's just been rough. And it's funny that what resonates with what you said as well. Like, I've been a Heat fan for 26 years. So I've been a Heat fan for a long time, even though I've lived in California. Long story short, I'm a Bay Area Niners, Giants, everything but basketball. But I just, the build, trying to like build and like be a contender at the same time. Like, it's not as similar because the Heat don't tank, and I know you guys don't tank either, really necessarily. But you've dealt with Steph being out, what was like 3 years ago, and you guys had that one really horrible season where it was like Pascal or Pascal, wasn't it Eric Pascal, and like you had that team.
Friend of the podcast. Careful, he was on the Warriors Huddle a couple of times. I was a huge fan of Eric Pascal when that was happening.
He was good,
yeah. Well, and I mean, again, the concept of bad season all just depends on where you start watching, man. I mean, like we routinely had 20-win seasons, pre Lacob. I mean, I'm a Cohan guy. I go back to the years of like Vontigo Cummings and Bimbo Coles, and we were losing hand over fist. And the perception is that the somewhat mature take I just gave you of like, take the long view. That is not what's happening here in the Bay Area. People are losing their minds over the end of this dynasty. People are calling for Steve Kerr's head for no reason in my mind. It's become totally irrational. But Scotty, I definitely want to hear what's a successful season for the Warriors now, man. Like how should this play out in your mind? What would make you happy?
I mean, I think a successful season would be getting into the play-in. I thought they had a lock for at least a number 10 spot, and then Houston went on this crazy run here at like 9-1 in their last 10 games. Just didn't see that coming, and that's why I feel like as a Heat fan, like, I mean, you guys could. First off, you have that little X next to your name, meaning you guys have clinched a playoff spot, which is just very relieving to see as a fan that you don't see on the Western Conference side. And you guys have the chance to maybe even play, what would that be, the 2 or 3 seed, I guess. And if you were on the East Coast, I mean, you definitely don't want to play Boston. So the fact that you guys have a good chance. Meanwhile, on the Warriors side, it's like the idea of being 10th, winning that game on the road, then going on the road, winning again, and then having to play the number 1 seed in Denver. It's just not really
doesn't sound
very
fun.
enticing.
It's next year for the Warriors. I know this is a Heat podcast, so Amir, I'll turn it back to you on Heat conversational topics. But successful season for the Warriors, it starts next year. It's not this year.
Let me ask you this, because last year when the Heat were in the same situation that they're in now, they were the 7th seed, also lost to the Hawks. So this is like March Madness for them, essentially. It's a 1-game playoff. It's not a 7-game. Typically 85-90% of the time the better team is going to win the best of 7, but there's players in the 7th, 8th seed. Same with you guys. Like, there's players on the Suns and whoever's the 7th seed that you guys have to get through that can get really hot, like a KD or a Book. And for us, it's going to be like a Trae Young. He's not that great, but he's ignitable. Like, he can get 35, 40 points in a game, and we could lose to them again like we did last year. And we played the Bulls, and we were losing to the Bulls by 10 with like 6 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. And some of us were like some of my friends were texting like, do we just lose so we get like a better draft pick? Like instead of getting 18 or whatever we got, and we got Jaime Jaquez this season, like if we lose this game, we get a 14th pick. We get 4 spots ahead. Like, does that ever cross your mind thinking like, to Scott's point, you have to win on the road the 10-9 game. You have to win on the road the 7-8 game, whatever. And then you play Denver most likely. Like, would you rather just start
Amir, you had me at hello on this. Yes, but Warriors don't have their draft pick this year. We lost that in the trade to get Gary Payton the second back. And so there isn't that advantage. Now, have I spent full seasons hoping for tanks? Hell yes, Matt. Yeah, absolutely. But this year, there's no advantage in them and them falling out. So it's all full upside. They gotta continue to develop young guys like Kuminga, and that would be more playoff experience, hopefully.
Okay, so you guys absolutely want them to win and just get in the tournament. That sucks that you guys don't have that pick, so there's no incentive at all.
Yeah, here's what I would like. They need to define their roles. I would like Klay Thompson to finish out this year, and by the end of it, for the Warriors and he to both know this is how you contribute to a championship team now, and this is a fair contract. Same thing for Kuminga. Not necessarily figure out his ceiling this year, but what's his role? Because that's the problem. Amir, if everyone's healthy on your team right now, I could ask you, what would you want the roles to be? And you'd be able to tell me. Spo has worked it out. You know what the rotation is supposed to be. You know who your starters are supposed to be. You know who's supposed to be closing games. It's the end of the season. Of course you know that. The Warriors don't know.
Not to cut you off, I don't know if we do, because we've had we're just like you guys. Like you guys have had the second most clutch games. Like we've had like the third. Like, and we've had 35 different starting lineups, which is the third like most. It's just like Kerr, like why the hell is Klay starting? We've defined his role. He's coming off the bench. His shooting percentages have gone up. Like he's a vet and he's like fine. I know he didn't, like, to his chagrin, he didn't necessarily want to do it, but for the betterment of the team. And we're still tinkering. Like because Spo and Kerr kind of still tinker when like they're the best two coaches, maybe outside of Mike Malone, with like in-game adjustments, especially in the playoffs. Like they're still trying to figure shit out because we have think about this. We got Terry Rozier mid-season. Like Tyler Hero and him like played like 9 games together before like Tyler got hurt again. So like our starting lineup that we want to go to is only played 9 games together. So it's like, who comes back in when Tyler and Duncan are healthy? Like who starts? There's that whole argument of Tyler's ego. He was the 6th man, but he's 23 years old. Like he's earned the right to start. So like, I don't even think we do know. Cause like now Nikola Jovic has been playing like at the 4 next to Bam. Like it used to be Caleb or Highsmith. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, honestly, I don't really know. I feel like we're in a similar boat than with you guys, but like the reason why we've been sucking again is just the injuries, the availability. Like that's the biggest issue for us, but we don't have enough time with 10 games left to figure out who that lineup's going to be. We've had 35 different lineups in 70 games. Like it's
yeah, that was crazy when I saw that stat. I mean, that's wild.
Let me ask you guys this real quick. So just again, this is a Heat podcast, but again, we don't care. This is also an NBA podcast. So I love hearing more about the Warriors, but what are your thoughts on Jimmy Butler and his opportunity to potentially win? He's 34 years old. I think he's going to be 35 this offseason. Does he have an opportunity? Like, do you think this guy like can be the leading guy on the Miami Heat and win us a championship? Because I thought so, but I just don't think we can get past the Nuggets. Like, if we get past the Bucks and Celtics in the East, like, I don't know if we can get past the Nuggets. So I don't know. As currently constructed, I don't know if we can win with Jimmy. I think we needed Dame or someone else. But what are your thoughts on just Jimmy Butler and his chances, Scott?
Well, I mean, I think it's trending in a bad direction, unfortunately, for Heat fans. Every time that I doubted Jimmy before, I was proved wrong. So from that standpoint, I'm like, oh gosh, am I going to fall into that trap again? But the way that he's not being available this year and seemingly not seeming to even care about it, like you were saying, like partying before games. And I mean, in a way, it's comparing a little bit to what the Warriors have experienced a bit with Draymond, as far as he has thought of himself as this 16 game player. And like, as long as he's just ready to go by the playoffs, don't worry about him in the regular season. And I don't think in this day and age that's going to do it, because you fall into these situations where now, you're in the play and you're barely scraping to get the 10th spot, or you're in the 8th spot and looking to play Boston. Like, I just think the league is too good to mess around like that.
Yeah. I always use this stat too, because it's like Jimmy always says, I don't care. It's just as long as I'm available in the playoffs, doesn't matter what seed I am. Like, it does matter, because in 77 NBA seasons, 51 of the champions were the number 1 seed. And I know you're going to take that stat with a grain of salt, because we didn't have 8 seeds until the 84 season. But that's like almost 40 years ago. And still, within the last 40 years, like 29 of those champions were still the number 1 seed. So it's like the number 1 seed wins 66% of the time. The top 3 seeds have won 97% of all championships. The 4 seed that won in the 70s was the Boston Celtics. They had like Havlicek and those dudes. And then in 94, the 6 seed that won a championship was the Houston Rockets, when Hakeem Olajuwon was literally the MVP, and they were the number 2 defense in the league. And I mean, was Jordan retired at that point? Didn't Hakeem win basically because Jordan was retired and missed half of a season playing baseball? So, like,
Yes.
those are kind of fluky championships anyway. Like, so seeding does honestly matter, in my opinion, and it's just super frustrating to see. I had a question that I was going to ask, but I forgot. What was I going to ask?
What's frustrating about Butler too is, I mean, I feel like his game is not one which should lend itself to injuries.
There we go.
And so it's like a little like, I mean, aside from Klay Thompson's 2 like massive freak incidents, he's another guy who's like was pretty indestructible before that, and played a lot of games, because I mean, he's not the type of, D Rose, Ja Morant, going crazy athleticism with his body flying all over the place. And so that I can't understand why he is having to miss this many games and gets injured so much.
Go ahead, because I remember my question, but you can go ahead first.
I'll give him some credit, or at least some a compliment from afar. I don't know if any team's style of play and culture fits a superstar's style of play and personal culture more than the Heat and Jimmy Butler. I mean, I remember those stories when he was playing in Minnesota and nobody could handle his unbridled rage, that he was in a practice dropping FUs in front of the media, calling everybody, beneath him. I'll keep some of the colorful language to myself. And that he found a spot that not only values itself on like trying as hard as possible. Last night, Amir, one of the things that stuck out to me on the telecast was that the Heat have Heat culture written on the floor. That's how much they value it. And that's the team that Butler found, a team that looks for body fat before the season even begins. So, I mean, that marriage makes a lot of sense to me. What again, from afar, I haven't been watching him. His skill set is almost a detriment to you guys in the recent past, because he's so fucking good that he's getting you don't get that draft pick. He needs somebody else to help him. And you're not getting a top 10 draft pick because he's good enough on his own to get you guys into the play-in and then ascend up. If you had added Lillard or somebody else here, I think this might be a different conversation. Although the other thing that frustrates me and that I hate you guys for is that even though you don't get high draft picks, you still end up always with these random ass players. Jaime Jaquez is so unnecessarily good for having gotten him at the 19th slot. It's preposterous, So do I think that Butler is for sure going to lead you guys to a championship this year? No. But do I think he's good enough to be the 1A on a title team? Yeah. They just haven't found that title team for him yet. They still need to fill out the roster a little bit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all that. And what I remembered, I was going to ask, because we're all old here. And so we're all 90s children, I'm assuming, watched most of our, started watching basketball as kids in the 90s and early 2000s. So, and again, the theme of injuries, why, like the whole load management thing, what's your opinion on load management? Like, why are players seemingly more injured now? We feel like with the improvements in like science and technology in the medical field, you feel like And like, I know people are more athletic now, so maybe they're more prone to injury. I don't know, but the game's softer. Like it's less physical too, right? Like there's like less like contact in the paint, like comparatively the 90s. I don't want the 90s to come back where like Bill Laimbeer can clothesline you or whatever. Like maybe a little bit of hand checking, but why are players missing so many games in general? Like I looked back at like name a 90s player, Patrick Ewing, Isaiah Thomas, MJ, Pippen. You look at their games played 82, 82, 82, 80,
Yeah.
78, like 82. Michael Jordan in his like last year with the Scott, you remember, you're a former fake Wizards fan over here. Like he played 82 games when he was 40 years old. Like what's going on? Like what are your thoughts on that?
This topic makes me so happy. Here's why. All right. So a little bit of background. This is a reunion show. We should have said this right up front. Scotty and I did. We co-hosted a show forever. We haven't for a while. I miss Scott. And one of the things I loved about Scott is that there would be topics that would just bring out passion, man. Anger out of nowhere. I did not know we were going to talk about this today. I don't know what his response is. My guess is he is going to be very angry about this. He has a fired up topic. Let's find out, dude. Scott. What's your take here?
I mean, I see it playing pickup now with the younger kids. I mean, the new generation, like, it's just not what it was. Like, they're doing their step backs, they're doing their load management, and you're also seeing like, you have like amazing recovery tools now available too. Like, I mean, the sports science has evolved so much, and I think it all just comes down to heart and people not being competitive. You see it after games, like everyone's high-fiving each other from the other team and giving each other hugs, and like, where is the like, I'm just walking off the floor, I'm not going to shake your hand, like I'm so pissed that I just lost. I mean, I often feel more upset after these losses than it looks like the players feel after like losing like a crucial game. I mean, did you watch? I always watch the end, like post buzzer. You saw last night, like, I don't know, did the Heat seem angry? Were they pissed off?
No, they never seem like they're pissed off. It seems like
I love the idea of people taking load management in pickup games, Scotty. There's like, like they've won a game. They're like, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and sit this one out. I'm going to get my legs right, but I'll be back. I'll be back in about an hour.
It's fun. Scott and I play basketball together every week, and we talk so much shit to each other. Like if I don't get back on defense, like Scott will like yell at me in the game, and like if Scott misses a freaking layup that he should have made wide open, I'm like you have to make it up on the defensive end. Next play, get a steal. Like we'll talk shit to each other because we have passion. We're a little bit older, so like we're more conscious of like our bodies. So like, but the kids are so soft. I weigh 170 pounds, and like I could back down a guy who weighs like 190 pounds if he's 25 years or younger. Like it doesn't make any sense. They're so soft. Scott, like I agree with you in that sense. But
I don't mind saying you guys sound like terrible teammates. I do not want to play on either of your team at any stage. I mean, just really at any stage. But I think you could play with Jimmy Butler. I feel like you both would like really get along with his FU style of leadership.
Speaking of that too, load managing in games, Jimmy, like Heat fans complain about this too. He load manages in games too. It's like, what are you doing? Like, stop waiting for the final 15. There's like, against the Pelicans or Cavs recently, he took one shot and it was 6 minutes left to go in the second quarter. With 12 games left in the season, we're like in the play-in spot. Like, we need you to get 30 every night. Like, why are you taking only one shot? Like earlier in the season, there was times where he like shot 8 times total in an entire game. And it's like, why are you load managing in a game? Like, you're our best player. You need to take the regular season serious. But
let me ask you guys,
did you answer Bram about the injury piece though? Like,
yeah, so I didn't. I avoided it artfully on purpose.
I'm going back to you. I'm gonna like, as a politician,
I appreciate it. So here's why I think it's happening. Does it upset me as a fan? Of course it does. I'm a fantasy basketball player. When these guys sit out for no reason, it drives me crazy. As a fan who goes to games, who spends far too much to go and check them out, when if I'm paying $400 for a ticket to watch Steph and he's sitting that night, does it drive me crazy? Of course it does. Yeah. As somebody who wants my team, like if what I want is the Golden State Warriors to win another championship, that's it. That's the one thing I want. And the medical staff, I go and talk to Rick Celebrini, the trainer for Golden State. And they literally tell me, here's the advanced stats. If you set them this amount, your chance at winning a championship goes up. Do I then consider load management? Yeah, boys, I do. Does it drive me crazy? Absolutely. But do I think it's preposterous? No, I don't. I understand why they do it. And I'll tell you what, they weaponize it for this season. The Warriors are not heading towards the championship. They're not. I'm willing to say that, right? What they do with Steph to finish out this year is going to be real interesting. They've just recently, there's been this big thing in the Bay about whether or not he should have finished out the game that they lost in Minnesota. He got more rest than he normally does. And Kerr didn't say anything, but I thought the insinuation was, why burn him out this year to get into that play-in if we don't have a shot at a title? Why not save his legs and really make a run next year? So am I against load management entirely? I don't think I am. It pisses me off. It didn't happen when we were growing up, but do I understand where it came from? Yeah, I do.
I understand too. So let's finish off with this. I'll ask both of you guys this question. So, and I think this came up like online. I don't know, some Tim Legler or someone on ESPN was bringing this up. Do you think Steph Curry has another shot to win a championship with the Golden State Warriors, or is his only opportunity to make it back to a finals is if he goes, which I don't think he will, to another team? He has 3 more years left? Do you think? At a high level?
In Golden State, or as like a difference making A1 guy? Is that the question? 2 or 3 years?
Yeah. So do you think he has a chance to go back to the finals just with the current build, the way things are now in his career with Golden State? Assuming he plays for the next 3 to 5 years.
Go ahead, Scott.
I do. It's after you saw what happened in 2022, it's just really hard to not have faith that could happen again. I am. If I had to bet on it, would I? I don't think so, but I definitely think it's possible. You're seeing Kuminga start to really come into his own. If he continues making leaps, he could absolutely be a number 2 guy. When we had, Bob Myers, I had a little more confidence that they may make an actual move that really mattered. Dunleavy is just unproven / I just like the guy from his time at Duke, and I can't get over that. So I don't really have much in faith in what he's going to be able to do free agent wise. But I do think that Steph is definitely still playing at a high level and that they could pull off a run. Absolutely.
This team, let's say they make no trades, no salary movement, nothing. This team, no, I do not think that this team is going to win another championship. Do I think that this franchise with Steph has a shot at another one? Yeah, I do. Lacob spends money. He is incredibly competitive. And this one of the scandalous realities about this team, Amir, they have spent the second most money on a roster that any team in the history of basketball has spent. More than any team ever, with the exception of Minnesota this year. More than Jordan's Bulls, more than Shaq's Lakers, more than the Warriors with Kevin Durant, more than anything, dude. And yet and still, they're desperately fighting Houston for the last spot of the fucking play-in. So is Lacob happy somewhere right now? Oh, fine, let's rerun this. No way. And he's got some chips to play. They're paying Chris Paul $30 million. That's off the books next year. They're going to renegotiate with Clay. Who knows what happens with Wiggins? So they can rearrange these puzzle pieces, and Steph, I think, is still there. So they have a shot, sure. But it's a possibility, not a probability. And we've gotten so spoiled here over these last few years that it's hard to say. Who do you think wins a title first going forward, just from now until one of them wins a title? The Heat or the Warriors?
Oof. That's a great question. I'm thinking too, to answer my question I asked you guys before, though. I think Steph has a chance to get to the finals. He's only 36. Jordan was 38 when he won that championship against the Jazz, right? He's not Jordan, obviously, but he's still a top 5, at worst 5 player in the NBA, top 3 most likely. So I still think you guys have a shot as long as you retool. You use that.
Jordan wasn't 38 when he won that.
Against the Jazz, in 1998. We'll look up what year he was born. I'll do that real quick. I have technology in front of me.
Computer. That seems like way too old.
He was born in 63. He was 35. God damn it. Okay, whatever. He's younger than Steph. That's a bad example. Okay. Damn it.
I liked it. Keep it going. Any Jordan, Steph analogy, I'm on board for it. And we should all point out that Scott secretly hates Michael Jordan. So I don't know, like, if that's important for the conversation, but it should at least be said.
Well, whatever. Scott has no loyalty. He's from DC. He should be a Wizards fan, but obviously he's a Warriors fan. I moved here 12 years ago. I'm not a Warriors fan. I'm a Heat fan for my entire life. If I moved to New York and lived there for 30 years, I'm never going to be a Knicks fan. So we can't really take into consideration Scott's opinion. So, but anyway,
Thanks for helping me out.
Thanks. Let's see. So I don't know. Like, if you look back at, like, since 2010, what two teams have the most playoff wins, not championships? You guys obviously have more. You have your 4. We have our 2. You've won 110 games. We've won 108. And, like, we have not played each other. My dream, like, with all my Warrior fans, was like, they get to the finals. I live in San Francisco. We can go to 1 to 2 games. We're going to fly to Miami together and go to Miami and go to a game so we could watch it there. So these two teams have won the most playoff games in the last 14 years. We haven't played each other, unfortunately, but fuck, I would pick the Warriors, honestly, like, right now at this point, just because we're never healthy. Like I don't see us winning this year. Like, I don't think it's impossible, but it's improbable that we're going to win this year. And next year, Jimmy's a little bit older. We have questions with Tyler Hero. Like, I don't know if we could take this team to a 6th-year build thinking this big 3 can win a championship when they haven't been able to. And most of that, again, with the goddamn excuse, is injuries. I hate saying the shit, but Tyler Hero is never available. Like, that's like, so Jimmy and Bam need help. So I'm going to go with the Warriors because Steph is still a top 15, 20, whatever the hell he is, all-time player who's still in his prime, versus Jimmy Butler is not even close to that. So you got to go with Steph or Jimmy in general. So
I love your answer. Do you want to ask you a follow-up? I'll give you a sense of my personality. I'm a psychopath. I take competition way too hard, man. I'm like, I ruin things when we go, like, game nights. I'm the guy who makes it hella tense, and I'm like, and changing rules for no reason, and everybody leaves unhappy. If I went, it could be my best friend. If I went to a finals game and they were rooting for the other team, do you know how tense that experience would be? It'd be fine. Like, on the way there, dude, it'd be fine. We'd be drinking and stuff, but like, end of the first quarter, there's not any talking anymore. It's like super ugly. The drive home sucks. Like, could you guys do that? If you went to a finals game with a friend and you're both rooting for the other team, you'd be like, cool. You could just, like, enjoy the experience and keep a friendship going.
Yes, only if it's one friend. And that's if it's what I was actually thinking, truthfully, is the Lakers versus the Heat is the true number 1 finals that I wanted to see, because the Lakers are the team that I hate the most across all sports, more than the Dodgers. Obviously, I told you I'm a Giants fan. Like, F the Dodgers for life, F the Yankees and those types of teams that buy their championships. But the Lakers are my most hated team. My older brother's 11 years older than me. He liked the Heat. That's why I copied him when I was 12. He was 23. That's why I'm a Heat fan since 1998. He hated the Lakers. I hate the Lakers. Shaq's a freaking fat piece of shit and has no talent. That's what I thought until he came to our team and I learned. Right. But my ultimate dream, you're right, because it would be awkward with my friends who are Warriors fans. Like, it wouldn't be fun because we're all competitive and love our teams. But with my friend who's a Lakers fan, we've been talking about this since the 8th grade. And we're like, God, I wish the Heat played the Lakers, because him and I have a friendly banter where we could, like, he's the nicest dude on earth. Like, I couldn't truly be mean to him. My other friends, like, fuck you, we'll fight, we could actually fight each other. Like, this other guy is just like a sweetheart. So, like, I feel bad talking shit to him, but, like, it would be, like, friendly and it would be fun to just talk shit to each other. And he knows that if the Lakers are making it to the finals, they're most likely going to win, right? Like, not this recent build, but he would have the advantage. So he would gladly come to Miami with me. So that would be the championship dream matchup, I think, number 1. But the Warriors, I mean, that's my backyard. So being able to go to a finals game without having to fly somewhere, like, that's important too. So have you guys been to a finals game? I'm sure you have. Have you guys? I don't know if you have, Scott, for the Warriors.
No, I went to the game 1 of the Denver NBA Finals last year, actually, in Denver. That was my first NBA Finals game.
I remember I asked you to take me, but you weren't able to. So
scandalous. Yeah, that's super scandalous. I've been to a few finals games. I have been lucky, and to answer your question, this has nothing to do. I know far too little about the Heat to really tell you what their championship chances are going forward. So this is more of an egocentric, Warriors answer. But I still believe in who Steph is, and the way I can tell you I believe in Lacob. I rooted for an owner, Chris Cohan, for years who didn't care. He made money, not spent it, which is the dangerous kind of owner you can have in the NBA. The one thing I want out of an owner, more than any, I guess two things I want out of an owner, is a guy who's willing to spend a huge amount of money and will listen to the basketball people. They're not in there being like, oh, we need to draft this person. Lacob does both of those. So we've got a star who I still think can lead a team and an owner who fills those qualifications. So I believe in our shot. The bonus is not having Myers, and why Myers left. Yeah, maybe he saw this ship sinking and got out of here beforehand. But no, I still think I still believe in our chances.
I think that's a winning formula, honestly, as well.
Yeah.
So you do have an opportunity that Chris Paul chip is going to be huge next season for you. I think it's like it was like Kyle Lowry for us making $30 million. So we got Terry Rozier and DeLon Wright out of that basically for him in a first round pick. So I'll take that. I mean, Rozier hasn't been amazing, but I mean, it's hard to go to a team midseason and go to a contending team. You want to call the Heat that right now, and figuring shit out. So I'm happy with that move right there. And that could be, I don't know what you guys need in terms of retooling, because you guys are wing centric. So I don't know if you need a big. So I don't know what big is going to be available for that amount, but you can get like two pieces. Like one move I liked was the Daniel Gafford move to Dallas and PJ Washington. Like you can get those two guys for 30 million, or you can get someone, I don't know. There's not many big guys that are making that much that are available, but you can get like, and I don't know if this fit would make sense, but I'm just throwing it out there. Like a DeJounte Murray, like you can get Chris Paul off the books for a DeJounte, but then that's like, fuck that. I don't want to say this. D'Lo. Like I don't want to compare. I don't want to disrespect DeJounte because it's kind of like your D'Lo experiment with Curry, which didn't really seem to work out. But I feel like a DeJounte backcourt would work more because you could see that he's more defensive minded and doesn't need the ball in his hands as much as like a D'Angelo to like contribute. But yeah, that's a big chip. So anyway, we said we're going to do 30 minutes. I have a show that I do with other Miami Heat content creators that I have met through YouTube. So shout out to Martel, Ernest, and Trent. And we always say, let's do a 20 to 30 minute video. And then we look up and it's like 30 to 45 minutes later. And that's what happens when you're just talking basketball, right? Like I'm sure we could do this for 6 more hours, but I'll stop there. I just want to thank you guys so much for hopping on. I had a good conversation with you guys. And before we hop off, Scott, you don't have any podcasts or anything, so you don't need to plug anything unless you want to plug your practice. I guess if you need a lawyer in Miami, most of my fans are audiences in Miami. But,
no, I don't have anything to plug, but I'll co-sign on whatever Bram plugs.
I was gonna say, Bram, let's let the folks know where they can find you, and on the YouTube channel, I'll put your podcast. I know you have a YouTube channel as well. We'll plug everything in there so you guys can find him in the description. But go for it.
Our YouTube channel's terrible, but the podcast we do is the Warriors Huddle. We are on social media sites anywhere. Type in Warriors Huddle so you can find us. And Scott doesn't have to co-sign. He's one of the reasons the thing exists. Scotty was a foundational piece for that podcast. But no, man, I appreciate you having us on. And yeah, you can find me being angry after every Warriors loss, almost guaranteed.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks.